What's up everybody, Tommy here, Math Productions, and this video we cover a lot of ground. Like the title says, it's the 12 reasons why in my opinion the Ryujin Faction Questline is the weakest of the four main faction questlines. I do enjoy the questline overall. This is a two-part type faction questline, part of the series, like a little mini arc here. Episode 1 is the 12 reasons why it is the weakest, but then episode 2 is going to be the fact that Ryujin ends really strongly. It is one of my favorite at the end, both for like philosophical type debate as well as some of the rewards that you get for completing the faction quest line. I think the end is fantastic and mostly worth it. But to get to that point, it is a slog. You've already seen number 1 pop up on screen. There's 11 more to go. The majority of those are all Imogen. I have no problem with her. It's a fantastic story in the Ryujin questline. But the mechanics of the way that you go through the story is really tiring, in my opinion. It is a constant back and forth between going to talk to Imogen and then later on at the end a couple times talking to Dalton, but it's literally just go out, do this one simple thing, and then come all the way back to report your progress, get your next update, and go back out and do it again. I will double back and kind of talk about the story, the questline itself story, as well as kind of roleplay wise why our character is doing the Ryujin Faction questline so early in our current playthrough. But to just double down as a recap here again, the beginning of the Ryujin questline story is so boring to me. So boring. Let me know in the comments if you agree with me or if you disagree. Again, keep in mind this part, which is like 90% of the quest, okay? So that's why I think it's fair to say the main reasons why this is the weakest of the faction quest lines, because it's the majority of the quest line. So like Freestar, without getting too spoilery, I love the majority of the quest line. I just think that it ends kind of weak. So it's the reverse of this, right? I think that most people would agree between the Crimson Fleet faction questline and the UC Vanguard questlines that those are probably the top 2. Constellation, in my opinion, is fantastic as well. But Freestar and Ryujin, I think, are the 2 weakest, and it's because of the fact that the majority of the build-up for Ryujin is so weak for me that's why I put it in that last place position. Again, and you'll see it next episode, things really do pick up at the end. You get a really good dungeon. To be fair, this episode shows off a really fun dungeon, part of it at least. There is a good dungeon that comes in the next episode, but it's really just the end. Like I said earlier in the video, the philosophical debate that the end of the Ryujin questline brings up is incredibly strong. I just don't know if it's necessarily strong enough to take it out of that last place position, right? But the reason that we're doing the Ryujin questline story the Ryujin faction questline so early in our story, if you will, twofold. Meta, first reason, because that was the next faction questline that I was teasing and wanting to get into in our last playthrough. We had built up a roleplay reason why we were going to Ryujin. We're not necessarily going to take that same reasoning this go round because our stories are different, our backgrounds are different, but we will kind of take elements of those. Little spoiler warning, we'll take some of those elements that I was teasing before and we'll rework them for what we're working with now in this story. But basically our dude here, in story reason, is we're a Crimson Fleet member. We're familiar with the settled systems. We've been to the major settled systems. We've had our ins and outs and issues. We do have the wanted trait, so obviously we've done our fair share of shenanigans across the settled systems, but we're familiar with it, right? We know that Neon is a little bit more lax, a little bit more loose, and we know that Delgado has personally recruited us at the Crimson Fleet to help him out with this really important mission, right? The way I'm role-playing it out, though, is it's not immediate, that it's set sometime in the future, that we're doing the prep work and everything like that. Basically, Delgado's picked his team, and now he's fine-tuning the actual executables within the mission itself, how the logistics are going to work, right? And we're not yet at go day, if you will, for that. So what we're doing in the meantime, trying to figure out a way that we can make some money. We don't necessarily want to do it completely legitimate, but we're also early enough in the game that we don't have the gear, the skills, the abilities, the equipment to just go charge right into POIs, pirating things, taking things over. We don't have the ship for that in space either. So we have to find ways to make money on our feet, right? We did that last episode by getting involved with Yannick's, what is it called, blend operation here in Neon. That introduced us to Benjamin Bayou, which we're getting a call back here in this quest line, being able to interact with Bayou at the Astro Lounge, talking about going into the Syndicate's hideout and kind of what's going to be cool there, making sure we get a free pass there. But we have been in Neon, we've been working in Neon, and kind of basically what I'm thinking is in the quest line where we used a fake ID to get a job at Xenofresh, we kind of took that idea and said, hey, it worked. Maybe it could work with Ryujin if I could get into there. I know they're into some really advanced techie type stuff. Maybe I can come across some knowledge. Maybe I can come across something I can get my hands on. And so that was kind of the thinking, is that we did a similar process as we did to Xenofresh. We used some, maybe not the most legitimate credentials. We applied. We ended up getting the job at Ryujin. Fortunately for us, we didn't necessarily know that they were actually far more shady than what we thought or what the public thinks on the surface. And so our skill set actually matches pretty perfectly with what they were wanting already. It's a good match, right? Side note, I want to show you guys on screen. Hopefully you've already seen it a couple times. You're going to see it a couple times again. Stealth is legitimately broken in this game. It does not work the way that you would hope for a truly realistic or immersive experience. Like I said, you've probably seen already on screen. It's going to happen again here soon. Literally, as long as you're crouched down and you have stealth level 1 unlocked, so you can see visibly on screen that stealth meter, as long as it says hidden, then technically you're hidden, and you can open doors, you can open containers, you can swipe things without any sort of repercussions. Even if, in actuality, quote unquote, there's an NPC that is standing right there and legitimately should see or at minimum hear what you're doing. Again, as long as you have level 1 in stealth and you can see that stealth meter on screen, the moment that it says hidden, you are in the clear to do what you have to do. It makes these legwork type, super mundane, monotonous type quests at the beginning of this quest line, it makes them pay you better if you can do them without being detected or without having to cause any problems. So even with a companion with me, right, walking around, if you're patient, if you have that stealth meter so you can see it, you should be able to have no issues working your way through all of these initial starting steps for the Ryujin questline, right? Now, eventually you do make enough progress, making a name for yourself, making credits, that they introduce you to the higher-ups, and that's where the story kind of starts to open up, right? At the beginning here, it's just a bunch of corporate espionage, sabotaging some people who we feel wronged us, sabotaging some people who might be a threat to us, and it builds its way up until we eventually learn that there's actually even maybe some inside sabotage going on at Ryujin itself. But again, though, you've seen how many numbers have already popped up. We still got like 9-10 minutes to go. We're not done yet. It's just a lot of back and forth. Again, it's a great story. And for people that want to argue that Starfield's story is fairly shallow and blah, 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 I will concede that it's not a long story. Like this faction questline, I'm like 2, almost 3 hours in actual gameplay time. I probably only have like 30-45 minutes left, so we'll call it like 4-5 hours if you're going a little bit slower than I was for the one faction quest line. And then it's just some kind of radiant missions that'll happen after the fact, no continuation of the story, so I guess that's fair. But for those 4 or 5 hours, when you're actually in it and you're involved and invested in what's going on, trying to figure out what's going on, when you're actually talking to these people and listening to them talk, the voice acting is fantastic. The dialogue is well done for sure, in my opinion, and the story does progress in a meaningful way that is exciting and it is engaging. Again, my only real qualm as we come up here on number 10, right? That's when it switches over from Emojin to Dalton. But as much as I love the story, it's just real quick, brief, easy objectives that take you from one side of Neon to the other and back, or from Neon to Hopetown and back. And again, there's not much for you to actually do quest specific when you're at those locations. That said, I want to tangent again because I think a lot of people approach this game in a way that does not maximize the fun that I think this game was intended to be able to provide. What I'm saying is, what you're seeing on screen, the way I'm literally just blitzing through this quest, in my head I am RPing that again, like I said last episode, our guy and Ezekiel are basically just sleeping on that Crimson Fleet Ghost as we're going to and from locations. When we're at a specific location like Neon, when we're doing things back to back, then we're doing those quote-unquote real-time back to back. And again, I feel like we're resting during those travel times. But in my opinion, especially the first time that somebody picks up this game, they should not rush through these. If a part of this quest sends you to Aquila City, spend some time in Aquila City. Don't just run into Laredo and then fast travel back to Neon. If a quest line sends you to Hopetown, don't just go and pick up a key or plant a piece of what is it called, evidence against somebody to set them up right. Like, instead of just doing those things and fast traveling back, let the universe breathe, right? Letting the universe breathe is going to allow the story to breathe, while the story, I do feel, is presented in a way that encourages. It's just like Fallout 4, in my opinion. The way that quests are presented, it really encourages the player to feel like this needs to happen now, this needs to be addressed immediately, go, 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 ASAP, on the move. But you do not have to play it that way. And I would encourage, again, anybody, especially new players, picking up the sticks for the first time and going through these stories, let them breathe. Because in between parts of the quest, you're going to get basically a recap and a stage set for what's next. Even if you forget a little bit about what's going on, if you haven't picked up a quest line in a while, either way, you should let the story breathe. At minimum, if you are going to rush through quest lines, don't forget to go back to those places that you've been to. Now you've been to them, they are easier to find on the star map, and there is a ton of great stuff in all of these locations, whether it be NPC interactions, potential companions you can pick up, other side quests and activities that you can complete for rewards or even just to keep busy. Again, lastly, I'll get off this soapbox. Even though I am doing it on screen, you should not just, in my opinion, you should not just rush through quests to get them completed as quickly as possible. You should enjoy them and let them breathe, right? I am getting through this quest line as quickly as possible. I'm actually, a few times in play, was getting frustrated because I wanted things to move along quicker, and at a couple moments where there was potential combat, there was times I was getting really frustrated because I wanted it to go quicker. I cut out the whole last part. When you have to infiltrate at one point, you have to infiltrate into Ryujin. You should not take down those people. You work with them. So I ran through it with an EM, but basically I did not take anybody out. I did take out a robot with the EM weapon. I forgot EM weapons can take out robots. But in amongst trying to take my time, go as stealthily as possible, allow for, if I'm detected, to go back to hidden in between as much as I could. I got super lost and turned around once I had got onto Ulara or Ularu, whatever, the main boss, well, not the main boss lady, but the boss lady that's setting up Imogen. When I got on her computer and then had to get back out of Ryujin, side note for anybody going through it, the elevators will not work on any level at any point in that part of the quest. So you really need to remember the way that you got in is the exact way that you have to take to get back out. It was kind of tricky. Eventually I got it and we got back out. But again, I was trying to rush a ton of these parts. This part here coming up, I did a bunch of dumb stuff. I already just ran through. I saved on those stairs. There was a couple times I had to revert back to it. And there's a couple times once I get this slate for Bayu that I had to wait for a minute to let these syndicate people stop being alerted and aware of me and aggroed to me, right? I definitely love this EM weapon though. That's another reason that I wanted to do this quest line early. So again, we have the story reason why we're doing it roleplay wise, because we're in a familiar and a mostly friendly city. We saw with another major company that we could use some fake credentials to get a job and illegitimately make legitimate money. Battery's getting low. But so we're pairing that while we're still waiting on the countdown for the day that we're going to go help Delgado. But we put in an application at Ryujin. We got involved with them. They gave us some easy light work, administrative assistant type tasks at the beginning. We worked our way up to being a corporate muscle for them. And then when we found out that there was some internal shenanigans going on, we made sure that we got to the bottom of that, right? We even infiltrated our own employer without their security being aware. In fact, their security being just as heightened as ever. And we're making progress towards figuring out what Ryujin is ultimately working on, and that's Project Dominion. Project Dominion is absolutely, in my opinion, where the Ryujin Faction Questline really steps its game up and goes from being, again, just kind of a monotonous slog, in my opinion, to really being something kind of exceptional. But before we go to this last big dungeon of the questline to get everything straight for the end of the conclusion of the Ryujin Faction Questline, we went back to our hideout on Nisoi so that we could gather up some supplies, get some rest in, and get ready. But I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you did, I hope you press the like button. I hope you consider subscribing to the channel. Again, the next episode on the deck is the conclusion of the Ryujin Faction Questline. Let me know in the comments below again what you think of this quest line, which one you'd want to see next, and as always, take care.